and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Hi, this is Jeff Joyner. You might know me as Coaster Dad or Logan's dad from Coaster Kids. You're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Hey, this is Scott Schaefer from Upside Media, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Hi, I'm Tracy Leicester with Saving Kiwi Foundation, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Hi, I'm Michael Corelli from Jurassic Yearbook, and I'm Mr. DNA. You're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Do you accept the Coaster Challenge? Yes, I accept the Coaster Challenge. Do you accept the Coaster Challenge? Coaster Challenge podcast is here. It's time to face your fears. Get that theme park therapy and lend us both your Coaster Challenge podcast is here. Your fear can disappear. We know that theme park therapy can dry up all your tears. Do you accept the Coaster Challenge? Yes, I accept the Coaster Challenge. Do you accept the Coaster Challenge? We accept because you know we're not average.
You're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast. A journey where people become fearful to fearless, all from riding roller coasters. So please secure your hats and glasses and keep your hands and arms inside the podcast. It's time to accept the Coaster Challenge with your host, David Cantu and Jenna Giselle.
Hey, how's it going, Jenna?
Great. How's it going, Dave?
It's going good, going good. Happy June 10th.
Happy June 10th.
Wow, mid-June. We're already approaching mid-June. Where's the time gone?
Flown by.
Well, let's hope summer slows down a bit. Really like to enjoy the summer months.
I'm doing my summer adventure starting next week.
Oh, really? Well, yeah, I believe you mentioned that a while back. So you're going to be teaching summer school for the first time.
Yep.
Wow. I wish you best of luck with that. I hope the kids don't drive you nuts.
I'm only doing it for 4 weeks, so.
Well, I hope it's. Well, you're going to be teaching them how to decorate.
Correct.
Baked goods and stuff like that. So
yep.
That might, at least it'll be fun. It'll be fun for these kids to do. Well, guys, I hope you guys are having a wonderful summer, and I hope you guys got your park plans in place, and hope you guys are going to be hitting some of the parks with some of the newest attractions that have been opening this year. You know, you got Busch Gardens with Iron Gwazi, you got Busch Gardens Williamsburg with Pantheon. King's Dominion's got a new coaster. Let's see, we got Wonder Woman over at Six Flags Magic Mountain that I believe is still underway. Might have to cut that part out.
Emperor at SeaWorld.
Gosh, there's just a lot of incredible things. You need pretty much Airy Force One over at Fun Spot in Atlanta. There's a lot of new coasters opening up this year, and it's pretty exciting.
That's a great change from what we've gone through the last 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we thought COVID was going to hurt theme park industry. Actually, it's helped made the industry more stronger. It seems like everybody is flooding the parks this year. It's really amazing, and glad to see all the businesses are bouncing back. Everybody's doing good. So it looks like it's going to be an incredible year. It's going to be a lot more fun than the last couple of years.
Right. I'm so glad.
Yeah. Well, anyway, guys, Andrew is standing by with a very special guest today. We've got Ryan Chin from Toro Ryan, the YouTube channel. Very awesome to have Ryan on the podcast here today. So they are standing by here in the studio. But first, we are going to do our lovely segment called the YouTube Highlight Clip of the Week.
It's the YouTube highlight clip of the week. The YouTube highlight clip of the week. It's a video that stands out because it's unique. It's the YouTube highlight clip of the week.
Alright, so in this week's YouTube highlight clip of the week, we are basically, since it's the month of June, usually around this time is graduation, where people are graduating from high school, people are graduating from college. We highlighted this in our previous episode, but since for the month of June that a lot of people are going to be graduating this year, there are always commencement speeches, a lot of incredible ones that go out at every graduation throughout the country. We found a really awesome commencement speech that actually was given by the one and only Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey gave a really awesome commencement speech about his life, and I think it's very motivational. I think this is something that would be really good for everyone out there to listen, because it shows a heartfelt story of what it means to succeed in life and also to find happiness. So take a listen.
My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. It's not the only thing he taught me, though. You know, I watched the effect of my father's love and humor and how it altered the world around me. And I thought, that's something to do. That's something worth my time. It wasn't long before I started acting up. You know, people would come over to the house and they'd be greeted by a 7-year-old throwing himself down a large flight of stairs. They would say, "What happened?" And I would say, "I don't know. Let's check the replay." I'd go back to the top of the stairs and come back down in slow motion. It was a very strange household. My father used to brag that I wasn't a ham, I was the whole pig. And he treated my talent as if it was his second chance. When I was about 28, after a decade as a professional comedian, I realized one night in LA that the purpose of my life had always been to free people from concern, just like my dad. And when I realized this, I dubbed my new devotion the Church of Freedom from Concern. The Church of FFC. And I dedicated myself to that ministry. What's yours? How will you serve the world? What do they need that your talent can provide? That's all you have to figure out. As someone who's done what you're about to go and do, I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Because everything you gain in life will rot and fall apart, and all that will be left of you is what was in your heart. My choosing to free people from concern got me to the top of a mountain. Look where I am. Look what I get to do. Everywhere I go. I'm going to get emotional because when I tap into this, it really is extraordinary to me. I did something that made people present their best selves to me wherever I go. I've often said that I wished people could realize all their dreams and wealth and fame, and so that they could see that it's not where you're going to find your sense of completion. Like many of you, I was concerned about going out into the world and doing something bigger than myself, until someone smarter than myself made me realize that there is nothing bigger than myself. Because life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. How do I know this? I don't, but I'm making sound, and that's the important thing. That's what I'm here to do. Sometimes I think that's the only thing that's important, really, you know? It's just letting each other know we're here, reminding each other that we're part of a larger self. Your job is not to figure out how it's going to happen for you, but to open the door in your head. And when the door opens in real life, just walk through it. And don't worry if you miss your cue, because there's always doors opening. They keep opening. And when I say life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, I really don't know if that's true. I'm just making a conscious choice to perceive challenges as something beneficial so that I can deal with them in the most productive way. You'll come up with your own style. That's part of the fun. Oh, and why not take a chance on faith as well? Not religion, but faith. Not hope, but faith. I don't believe in hope. Hope is a beggar. Hope walks through the fire and faith leaps over it. I used to believe that who I was ended at the edge of my skin. That I had been given this little vehicle called a body from which to experience creation. And though I couldn't have asked for a sportier model. It was, after all, a loaner and would have to be returned. Then I learned that everything outside the vehicle was part of me too. And now I drive a convertible. Yeah, man. Top down, wind of my hair. Woo! I am elated and truly excited to be present and fully connected to you at this important moment in your journey. I hope you're ready to open the roof and take it all in. You are the vanguard of knowledge and consciousness, a new wave in a vast ocean of possibilities. On the other side of that door, there's a world starving for new ideas, new leadership. I've been out there for 30 years. She's a wildcat. Oh, she'll rub up against your leg and purr until you pick her up and start petting her, and then out of nowhere, she'll swat you in the face. It can be rough out there, but that's okay, because there's soft serve ice cream with sprinkles. I guess that's what I'm really trying to say here today. Sometimes it's okay to eat your feelings. Now, fear is going to be a player in your life, but you get to decide how much. You can spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future, but all there will ever be is what's happening here, and the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm saying I'm the proof that you can ask the universe for it. Please. I am at the top of the mountain, and I was, and the only one I hadn't freed was myself, and that's when my search for identity deepened. I wondered who I'd be without my fame. Who would I be if I said things that people didn't want to hear? Or if I defied their expectations of me? And that peace that we're after lies somewhere beyond personality, beyond the perception of others, beyond invention and disguise, even beyond effort itself. You can join the game, fight the wars, play with form all you want, but to find real peace, you have to let the armor go. Your need for acceptance can make you invisible in this world. Don't let anything stand in the way of the light that shines through this form. Risk being seen in all of your glory. My soul is not contained within the limits of my body. My body is contained within the limitlessness of my soul. Now I'm always at the beginning. I have a reset button, and I ride that button constantly. Once that button is functioning in your life, there's no story that the mind could create that will be as compelling. The imagination is always manufacturing scenarios, both good and bad, and the ego tries to keep you trapped in the multiplex of the mind. Our eyes are not viewers, they're also projectors that are running a second story over the picture that we see in front of us all the time. Fear is writing that script, and the working title is, I'll Never Be Enough. I had a substitute teacher from Ireland in the 2nd grade that told my class during morning prayer that when she wants something, anything at all, she prays for it and promises something in return, and she always gets what she wants. Well, I'm sitting at the back of the classroom, thinking, wow, my family can't afford a bike, So I went home and I prayed for one. And I promised I would recite the rosary every night in exchange. Broke that promise. But 2 weeks later, I got home from school to find a brand new Mustang bike with a banana seat and Easy Rider handlebars. Yeah. From fool to cool. My family informed me that I had won the bike in a raffle that a friend of mine had entered my name in without my knowledge whatsoever. So that type of thing has been happening to me ever since. And as far as I can tell, it's just about letting the universe know what you want and working toward it while letting go of how it comes to pass. No matter what you gain, ego will not let you rest. It will tell you that you cannot stop until you've left an indelible mark on the earth, until you've achieved immortality. How tricky is this ego that it would tempt us with the promise of something we already possess? Relax and dream up a good life.
So we have Andrew and Ryan standing by. Andrew, take it away.
Thank you, David and Jenna. This is Andrew, one of the executive producers of the Coaster Challenge podcast with you. Today, I have a fun guest that we're going to have a good conversation with. I'm proud to welcome to the podcast from the Toro Ryan YouTube channel, Ryan Shin. Welcome, Ryan.
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me on.
And looking forward to chatting with you here. And you handle a channel that's fascinating to me because I am from New Jersey originally. I've been to Great Adventure many times. It's my original home park where I became an enthusiast. But I still have not been on El Toro because it's one of my white whales. It's always down when I'm there.
Oh, no.
So,
man, that sucks.
Yeah, it's one of my white whales I'm planning on conquering this year, probably this summer, maybe even sooner. So, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience? Tell them who you are and your experience, either, certainly working at the parks. I mean, you've worked at the parks as well as covering the parks.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. My name is Ryan Shin. I run the YouTube channel Toro Ryan. And just like you, I'm from New Jersey also. I'm born and raised, and I've always lived here. So I'm 26. I grew up with Great Adventure also.
Nice.
And growing up, I was terrified of roller coasters. And I also struggled a lot with anxiety. I didn't really realize it until I was like a little older in high school. But at the time when I was like a little kid, that did kind of make me very analytical about things. But I wouldn't really reach out as much to like my peers. I had like a small group of friends, but not too many outside that. But I would go to Great Adventure as a kid, and I would see like Scream Machine running because, I was still there. I would just watch the coasters, and I was just completely like in awe of them, like how they ran. And I got really into just watching them, but I was terrified to ride them. I wouldn't go near them. I knew all the stats, all the like the heights, their names, all that stuff, but I wouldn't go on them. But then, eventually I overcame that fear, started riding things, and I started feeling more confident as a person. And then I slowly just kind of grew and to the point where I am here, I guess now. I worked at Great Adventure for 4 years. I briefly worked at Cedar Point also. And those really helped me grow also as a person and just feel more confident. And then eventually after that, started making the YouTube channel also. And then as that went, I just kind of further and further. I just felt like even more comfortable.
Nice. That's awesome. I love that journey. And that journey is very much in sync with our mission and what we really like to talk about and kind of put out there to the universe and help people with. So we're going to have some good conversations here, I can tell, when we dig into some of these questions we're going to talk to you about. So that's awesome. And that's fantastic. So that's great. And I knew you had worked at Great Adventure at Cedar Point because, again, mutual friend and someone that works for your channel, Mark, and we'll talk about him a little bit later.
Nice.
But he's a character.
Absolutely.
So in any case, but first half of the interview, we'll talk just about your love of coasters and kind of how you evolved with that and talk about some of that anxiety and fear stuff you alluded to. And then the second half, we'll talk about your channel specifically and what's unique and some interesting things about it and kind of how I came to find out about it, which is kind of a fun story and all that. So in any case, so we'll have fun. So we'll start off pretty simple here. What was the first coaster that you rode, or the one that you remember riding when you were young?
So the one I definitely remember riding was it was Roadrunner Railway. So it's Little Devil Coaster now at Great Adventure. But when it was in its original location in the back of like Looney Tunes Seaport, I'm pretty sure I was 5. That was definitely the first coaster I rode.
Okay, nice. Yeah, 5 years old. I was 4 when I rode my first coaster, which was Space Mountain here in Florida, in Orlando.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, but that's
one hell of a coaster to ride is your first coaster.
Well, yeah,
it's an airtime machine. Old Arrow.
It's an old. Yeah, it's the probably the last, not the last original, but it's the oldest of the remaining Arrows that are Space Mountains, because the first one, of course, Disneyland was taken out.
Right. Yeah.
And replaced by a Vekoma back for the 50th in 2005. But that's. Or actually, no, wait a second. I might have my dates reversed here. I think Disney World, I think Magic Kingdoms went in first.
It did.
Yeah. By a couple of years. Yeah. But so I rode it when I was 4 years old. I don't remember much about it, but I remember being scared. I remember the loading station. That's all I remember from those memories as a kid. So
and like being in the dark too and all that.
Yeah, in the dark. And I didn't know where I was going to go and being restrained in. Yeah, it was new to me. So, but certainly I've changed a lot since then. It sounds like, like you were saying earlier, we'll talk more about this. You've gone through facing fears and obviously don't have the same level of fear about coasters anymore. It's not the little devil, but it's basically like it's just a small kiddie coaster, basically.
Yeah, it's like a little Zamperla. It's like maybe like 15 feet tall.
Yeah, it's a lot of first coasters for people, not to see that one specifically, but other parks. But
they're cloned everywhere. So
yeah, of course. Okay. So let's jump from that to probably something a little bigger than that coaster, longer, bigger, taller, faster, etc. But what would you say between when you were 5 years old, when you rode that first one, till today? What has been the one coaster in your life that scared you the most, intimidated you about getting on it, etc.?
Well, I'll probably give you two coasters for this answer. It just kind of has to go. It goes with my anxiety because as a little kid, I kind of like created a system of like a ride between, let's say, like 50 feet tall to 100 feet tall is like one class of scary, and then like 100 to 200 feet is like a different class. So I had built this whole system in my head, and the first step was trying to get past like that 50 to 100 foot mark.
Right.
So the first one I really rode to get me like start leveling up was Batman the Ride, A Great Adventure. So I rode that in 2005 when I was 9, and I think I had just hit 54 inches at that time. I was completely petrified. I was first time going upside down. You know, it's this coaster that it's 105 feet tall. So you know, in my head, I'm like, oh my god, it's like this crazy tall coaster. It's past my system that I've created. But I got off it, and it was amazing. I loved it, and I felt so good about myself after that. Because like a lot of my friends were, you know, they were riding coasters. They weren't scared. And here I am, obsessed with them. Like I know all these details and facts about them, but I won't ride them. It really helped me out a lot. Like and then I started riding more and more coasters after that.
Nice. Okay. So familiar with that Batman is the first Batman I ever rode, again, growing up in New Jersey. And I remember growing up there, my big first coaster, the one that really conquered a lot of my fear with coasters. It's not the scariest coaster I've ever been on, but it's certainly the one that conquered my fears, was the Great American Scream Machine, the old Arrow Mega.
Oh, nice.
Great Adventure. I rode it just a few years after it opened. It was amazing. And, you know, go figure, I could have went on lightning loops. Again, I was still there back then. And, you know, just go on a single loop or a couple loop coaster. But no, I had to go on a multi-inversion.
Yeah,
it wasn't my choice. It was my friends. I was there for a trip in high school. And like you, all my other friends there already were into coasters, or at least advanced to the point where they were okay with a big coaster like that. But I had not. So I had been on only small coasters, you know, only non-inverting ones. And they're like, oh yeah, come on, Andrew, you'll love it. You'll love it. It was the first coaster that we did that day. It was right in front of the park.
Oh, wow.
No. So that's how I conquered my fears. And then I became an enthusiast pretty much after that. I was like, my friends take me on all the coasters. And then I got a season pass to Six Flags, never had one before. Went there all that summer because I now driving then. I was senior in high school, so I could go without my parents taking me. Later that summer, I remember seeing this kind of weird looking booth with Batman, you know, symbols on it outside. And had inside of it had like, you know, old CRT TVs. This is before flat panel TVs. And they were playing a video of this coaster that I had never seen anything like it before. And it was under the tracks and it was going through loops and, you know, and all kinds of inversions, etc. And I was like, what is this? When can I ride this? And of course, next summer is when I rode it, you know, when Batman opened. It was, of course, the video was the one in Great America because that was the first one. And then, you know, but anyway, exactly what you're talking about there. I love riding that coaster that next summer. So yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned you had just hit 54 inches. So typical height requirement for B&Ms. It's not like you had those, yes, we talked to some people we know, we'll ask them about this kind of thing and they'll say, well, I went through the line and then I chickened out, you know, but they could have ridden it. But you, that was your first chance to ride it because you were tall enough before that. So, and you were only 9 years old, you said, right?
Yeah, I was 9.
That's pretty young to go on a coaster like that.
I did have a pretty big push because I have a little brother. His name's Tyler, 3 years younger than me. He's not an enthusiast, but from a young age, he would ride everything. So it kind of made me look bad. I kind of, you know, like, and my parents would make fun of me for it. They'd be like, oh, Ryan, you're obsessed with the coasters and you won't ride. And I mean, it's funny thinking about it now, but back then I was like, oh, I can't let that happen. We were at Busch Gardens Williamsburg earlier that summer in 2005. And this is when Big Bad Wolf was still there. So my brother was 6 and he went on it. I refused. I wouldn't even go on the line for it. And then after that, like they made fun of me so bad. Not terribly, but you know, they like teased me about it. And then it kind of got in my head. And then I was like, all right, I got to do something.
So you had the peer pressure from your family. I had the peer pressure from my friends at school and stuff. Okay. I remember Big Bad Wolf. That Big Bad Wolf I rode years earlier than that when I was like middle school, like junior high school. And again, because it didn't go upside down, I was cool going on it. I thought it was kind of cool because it's been on the track. My big fear was going upside down. That was like the big fear I faced initially, making the big jump into bigger coasters.
So I feel that. Yeah.
You mentioned briefly, and we might come back to Batman here, but you mentioned there was another coaster. I'm guessing a taller coaster.
Yes.
So is it Batman that you would say scared you the most, or is it this other coaster?
I'd say it was Batman that scared me the most, but a ride that like broke all my fear, but I was completely terrified of. I was King Ka.
I knew you were going to say that. Okay.
I wrote that. You're going to ask me something about it.
Oh yeah, no, I was just going to say. So I'm guessing guessing because by the way, you sound pretty technical. Are you kind of an engineer in your like day job or anything like that?
Yeah, actually, I have an engineering degree. I'm a civil engineer, and
nice. Okay, I'm an optical engineer. I work in engineering as well.
Oh, nice.
I'm pretty
awesome.
technical. Yeah, sure, you're probably similar to me. I love riding coasters. I love looking at them and hearing them, just like anyone else. But I also love all of how they work and all the different technologies.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
being an engineer. So yeah, well, I was definitely sensing the technical side there with you. That's cool. So I'm sensing that height is a big deal. Like, was height a big fear thing for you?
It was a huge thing for me. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. It was never an issue for me, which I know I'm a little bit unique in that regard because most people, height is like a big thing. For me, it was the inversions. But again, each of us has our different play and all that, you know. Okay, so let's talk more about Batman. Well, sure, we'll probably talk about King of Ka later because that's a legendary coaster and Pulse in the World and all that. But yeah. But okay, so Batman. So you already kind of touched upon these things, but what would you say was it like, you know, before you got on the ride, you know, going through the queue and what were you feeling? What were you thinking?
It was just straight anxiety. I was just trying to picture because I had no idea of what it was like to go upside down. So I was just trying to imagine like what's it like to go upside down, and I'd tell myself, oh, there's not one inversion, there's 5 of them. Like I'm gonna have, like, what if I don't like the first one? Then I'm gonna have to deal with all, you know, the 4 that come after that. Or what if the drop? You know, what if I can't handle that drop? I think it's like an 80-foot drop. So what if I can't do it? And you know, in 2005, and I was 9, so you know, there's no like smartphones or anything to go on and try to distract yourself with anything. You're just standing there, just in the moment, something that we don't really have anymore. But you know, just it was bizarre.
You're standing there, you're with your family, right? Your parents, your brother.
I was just with my mom, actually. My mom was bringing me on. My little brother wasn't tall enough yet, so he was. My dad, I guess, were waiting outside. So it was me and my mom. It was like a half-hour wait.
Right, but your mom, of course, being one of your parents that was teasing you before this. Yeah. So you had this pressure, you know. Got it. Yeah. So obviously you went on it. We know the kind of the 2020, you know, hindsight on that one. But so talk to me about, you know, you mentioned you felt great and everything, but talk to me about a little more detail about what you felt after you got off the ride. It
was like freedom, almost like all the systems I had created in my head, like were just kind of like in a way like redundant after that. I kind of realized the whole time, like I was just like creating this fear for no reason. And I was just making it worse for myself. And that I should just go and like ride these rides and just conquer things. It just felt so great.
Gotcha. Now you were, again, still very young back then. And you identified Batman as being kind of the one that scared you the most in your whole life. Now, did you continue to feel anxiety on other coasters, like the first time you went on?
I did, actually. Yeah, I would. For like another year, I still felt anxious every time I got in a new coaster.
Right. And then eventually you got to the point where even though you had never been on that, see that it's a clone, first time on a unique model, or you eventually got to the point where you've never been on it, but still you weren't anxious. You were just excited.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that happens, you know. I'll give you an example. I mean, this wasn't the first coaster I felt this way about, but I just rode Steel Vengeance for the first time last year, this past summer. Oh, nice. I just hadn't been to Cedar Point in a few years. You know, I live in Florida. I didn't live near Ohio. So finally got back to last time I've been there was 2017. So I just missed Steel Vengeance by a year. Yeah. So one of the tallest RMCs, steep drop, you know, long ride, lots of airtime, and very intense coaster. It's very formidable just looking at it. I was not nervous at all about getting on it. You know, I've been that way with coasters for a long time now. And a little bit more recently, I've gotten to the point where even the first time I ride a coaster, I've got my hands up the whole time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And, you know, so it's that progression of that comfort, that conquering fear. And one of the things we talk about on the podcast here is that fear, which is an aspect of the mind, of course, it's psychological. It's really no different than, you know, physical-based things like strength training, going to the gym. The more you do it, the better you are, the stronger you are. So the more we face fear or put ourselves in these sort of potentially anxiety-inducing situations, the better we are able to handle situations like that moving forward. And that goes beyond coaster. It goes beyond
in regular life.
It goes into regular life. And that's where a lot of where I believe theme park therapy comes from. There's other aspects to it too. But yeah, so it's just kind of curious to kind of hear, kind of see your progression. So, okay. So obviously, you know, you got into coasters more after riding Batman. You were, you know, less anxious about getting on them, etc. How would you say that riding Batman, conquering your anxiety, your fear on Batman, how did it impact your life?
I definitely felt like more confident as like a person. You know, I was still a kid, so but it definitely helped me like connect more with my peers, I'd say. Just, you know, I just felt less fearful in situations, and I was just like probably more talkative. I think I rode Batman in August of 2005, so I was like heading into 5th grade. grade. So I was like right, it was like right before I turned 10.
Right.
Going into 5th grade, I felt confident and I made a bunch of new friends.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just good for me overall.
Nice. It certainly, I've felt as the years have gone by, as I've gotten more involved as an enthusiast and getting to know more people and traveling more and going to more parks. And I've found myself, I've always been, well, I would say always. In high school, I was more introverted, but by college, I was definitely more extroverted. But, you know, just as the years have gone by, again, being an enthusiast, especially the past 3 years or so, because I lived in California for 20 years.
Oh, nice.
And I moved here to Orlando in 2018.
Okay.
And enthusiasm, you know, out in California, I'd go to ACE events and stuff like that, but I wasn't really connected to the community, if you will, that much. And then meeting David and then moving to the theme park capital of the world, you know, and then I started meeting people, you know, I met Austin, Mark, again, we'll talk about more, but and others. And, you know, I just getting involved with the community. And yeah, there's any community has its bad apples, but I've met a lot, largely positive, great people.
There's so many good people in the community. Yeah.
So many great people, so many great friends that I've made. And kind of that, along with all going on these coasters so often and going to the parks more often, is, you know, because I live a lot closer to the park here in Florida than I lived in California, the traffic in California. So I could go more.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So all that put together, I've just found myself more outgoing, more confident, you know, hang around people and be able to be more myself and, you know, be funny and, you know, just be more outgoing in general. So I can relate to what you're saying there. It's I think it's a part of what happens with the social aspect of the community as well. So,
oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
also real quick, are you hearing like the background of like my wife talking? Because I think she's like on.
I heard just briefly there. We'll cut this part out, of course. But I don't hear it anymore. So obviously coasters, you know, help conquer your fears, your anxiety, helped you kind of be more, you know, true to yourself, more outgoing and more social. So that's fantastic. Is there any other ways that, going beyond the anxiety, but just coasters and theme parks in general, have had a significant positive impact on your life?
Yeah. So something I haven't mentioned yet is I also grew up as a skateboarder. So I was very into skateboarding. Around that same time, actually, is when I got into skateboarding. I still do it every now and then, but like in high school and like middle school, I was like an active skateboarder. College too, like every day. Definitely riding, because you know, skateboarding is a big thing where you can't have fear either. Learning tricks or doing different things, different obstacles, and roller coasters was a big help because it helped me overcome a lot of that fear. So like when I would, you know, I'd say I'd ride a new roller coaster as a kid or as like a younger teenager, it would help me feel more confident like on my skateboard so that I could go and do things. And I actually got pretty good at some old skate videos from like earlier in the 2000s, and it really helped me out a lot.
Very cool. So basically conquering anxieties and fears helped you be more brave with skateboarding.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it totally makes sense. I mean, I definitely consider myself a thrill seeker. I'm not a skateboarder. My issue, and this is not a fear thing, this is just knowing my own limits thing. I am not the most coordinated person. I'm not an athletic person, sports and all that. You know, I love the ocean. I'm a bodyboarder, which I'm pretty good at.
Nice.
But where I know my limits is I've tried surfing, stand-up surfing. You know, I lived in California for 20 years. My parents, we used to have a condo in Long Beach Island, New Jersey, like right on the beach. So I've been around the ocean most of my life. Yeah. So stand-up surfing, I just don't have the coordination for it. So again, I accept my limits. Likewise, I'm not a good skier, snowboarder, skateboarding. So, you know, on the other hand, you know, things that I can do that are more on the thrill-seeking side that don't involve that level of coordination. I've ridden sport bikes for years. And,
nice.
You know, again, it's all part of that thrill-seeking nature.
Absolutely. Yeah, like the adrenaline from it. Yeah. We love to chase it, you know.
Exactly. So that's not surprising at all. I think for all I know, we've had other guests on that turns to skateboarding. You're the first to mention it, but it totally makes sense because it is, you know, you can do aerials. And so, yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so we'd ask you a few more questions. These are going to be some fun ones here.
Sure.
Just about coasters in general. Then we'll talk more detail about your YouTube channel and everything else. So what is your coaster count? How many coasters have you been on?
I think it's 574. Pretty sure it's 574.
Nice. Not bad for mid-20s. So not bad at all. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so you've been on a lot of coasters, almost 600. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So of all those coasters you've been on, I'm sure many of them have been on more than once. So what has been your craziest moment ever on a coaster?
It's going to sound really weird, but it was the brake run on Edge of Nika at Fuji Q Highland.
Okay, I've been on that coaster. Yep.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I've been on all three of the Hour 40.
Oh man, I'm so jealous. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm missing Dynaconda.
Nice.
Yeah, that brake run, it's just because of what it is, because it's like, you know, you hit a brake run on any coaster, and it's like, oh, all right, the ride's over. You know, like it's just like most of the time, like a smooth, gentle stop. And Edge of Nika, the seat tilts so that your head goes into like the catwalk, and it's like you feel like you're gonna get your head cut off for a second, but you're not expecting that. My first ride, I didn't know the ride did that, so like I like freaked out. I was like, oh oh my God. Yeah, that was insane.
Yeah, the Arrow 40s are so insane.
They are.
And in fact, I alluded to this earlier. I say that I refer to X2 this way because it's the one here in the US. It's the one I have the most experience with. Opening year, I wrote it just a few years ago and many times in between. But
opening year, nice.
Yeah, I've been on Igenika and Dynaconda both once. But what I'm about to say is true for all three of them because they both have very similar layout. All three of them. The first drop on those coasters, because of the nature of them, because you're flipped over, facing straight down, you can't see any. That is the scariest moment I have ever on a coaster. Even to this day, I've been on it many times. Again, I'm not feeling anxiety, but it's like the closest I can come to be like, being scared, like
in the moment.
in that moment.
It's like, oh my God,
it's the best. I mean, they're not the tallest, they're not beyond 90 degrees and all that stuff, but they are so intense for what they
absolutely.
are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, no one has ever used Igenika as their craziest moment of coaster, so congrats on that.
Sweet.
So, what would you say is, and maybe I know this already, maybe I don't from your name, what is your favorite coaster?
So it's not El Toro, but it's Igenika. It's
okay.
El Toro's like right behind it. It's somewhere up there. But that it's just the craziest coaster I've ever been on. It's absurd, like just how ridiculous it is. And like what you were saying about the first drop. I don't remember X2 as well. And I missed it when I was in California in January because it was closed.
Okay,
but I can vividly remember Igenika's first drop. And I just remember how late it felt like, because like the seat kind of flips as you're pulling and going into it just felt like it was happening too late. Like I just felt like we're on the ground still staring, like in the position where you're looking down.
Right.
And then it somersaulted like last second. In that moment, like I was completely freaked out. And then like the rest of the ride was just kind of like that. Like just,
interesting.
It just blew me away.
When was the last time you rode Igenika?
It was November of 2018.
Okay, so not too long ago.
Yeah.
And did you ride multiple rides that visit, or?
I only got two on it. I got two rides. Yeah.
Outside seat, inside seat?
Yeah, I did both. My first ride was an outside seat in car 5, the last row.
Okay.
And then my second was inside seat, car 4.
Okay. And when's the last time you rode X2?
It wasn't that much long before that. It was like May of 2017.
Okay.
But in between those two rides, I rode so many new coasters. It was like a 200 coasters. And the memory I just can't pull it in my brain. I don't know why. I just can't put it together like how it felt.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at here, because Mark and I have had debates, because Mark, has been on Dynaconda, China Dinosaurs Park, like I have. My opinion, and again, it's all, we talk about how rough a ride is. It's very dependent upon when you ride it, if things change and things coasters age, they're not maintained. My experience is that Igenika, and now keep in mind, I rode in 2007.
Okay.
That's when I was there. I've only been there once to Fuji Q. That was the most, up to that point, because that X was, 6 years old at that point. That was a smoother ride than X. It was newer than X. Now, I rode China Dynaconda, like a tongue twister. I rode Dynaconda. I rode that in 2019.
Okay.
And I found it extremely rough. Mark goes off on number one. And so you've not been on Dynaconda. I get that. But what your comparison of Igenika, you obviously said it's your favorite, X2 is not. Did you find that Igenika was smoother than, say, your last X2 ride?
So honestly, I don't remember X2 being all that like insanely rough. I just remember the legs hitting, but I don't think my legs were flat on Igenika. Okay. And I want to say it was smoother. I didn't think it was rough when I rode it. I thought it was like comfortable still, but just, like completely insane and intense. But I never found it ridiculous. And people tell me that X2 can get pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like on that last Raven turn. And I just don't remember it.
I don't hate X2. I can potentially marathon it for the crowds and everything else and the operation. But, you worked at Great Adventure. But anyway, so it's not that it's uncomfortable. It's just, it's maybe disconcerting. I don't like rattle on coasters. My favorite, which is Velocicoaster, it can get a rattle. It has rattles sometimes.
Right, yeah.
Because it's dependent upon maintenance and I guess tightening bolts nightly on trains and stuff like that. But it's never that annoying. But X2 can, pretty much all of the rides I've had on it in the past 10 years have been very rattly.
Oh, wow.
Very rattly. But so I was just curious to get your perspective.
Oh, yeah. Would you say it was smoother as X, like when you first rode it?
Okay, so let's go on the time machine here. So I rode it, again, I lived in California for 20 years. I was a Six Flags Pass holder for many years there. Magic Mountain was my home park. I lived in San Diego 2 different time periods. April of 2000 until May of 2005 for about 5 years. And I remember going up to Magic Mountain as a pass holder, season pass previews, one of the first days that I think they had it over like a week or two. And with my buddy, one of my coaster enthusiast friends at the time, I remember riding it at night for the first time. And it was with the original heavy Arrow trains, and it was butter smooth. You could go on a given coaster and you can compare it to something else. It's like an evolution of something else.
Yeah, totally.
But it's rare that those coasters come along. RMC, you could probably say about RMC, but it's rare that coasters come along where they're so different than anything else you've ever experienced, which is like a step, a huge leap. And that's what X was, of course. Nothing existed.
Yeah, nothing
like
was
in the
like
world.
it. Yeah.
So that first ride on it, oh my gosh, it was my number one for many years because of, it was incredibly smooth. It did not have that rattle. But, that's unfortunately what happens with steel coasters, especially if they're not maintained well. So,
right, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, so going to the other end of the spectrum, what would you say is your least favorite coaster?
I think right now I would have to say Hellcat at Clementon Park here in New Jersey.
I grew up in New Jersey. I've never been to Clementon. So I'm familiar with Hellcat. What is that?
Oh, it's an S&S Woody. The park is down in South Jersey.
Right.
Like past Cherry Hill, I'm pretty sure, and like down in that area.
Yeah, I've heard of Clementon. I just never been there. I need to go there. It's a smaller park. So it's an S&S Woody, and it's just really rough, or
it was poorly built and poorly maintained. So when you watch the ride run, there's just, it's like, say it's going over like a camelback.
Right.
The train is not smoothly changing in like angle. It jerks. Like it suddenly just pitches like forward 10 degrees, pitches forward another 10 degrees. So now, imagine doing that at the top of a hill, which is like, okay, it's not like insane, but doing that now at the bottom of a pullout, like immediately out of the first drop, it was the roughest coaster I've ever been on.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Pretty bad. I mean, probably the roughest wooden coaster I've been on. Well, I mean, there's different ways you can define roughness, but like potholey wise is first and actually only visit thus far I've made to Six Flags Over Georgia, Great American Scream Machine there back in 2019.
I had a feeling you'd say that right. I had a feeling.
It's almost like that park needs to have two RMCs, if you know what I mean. But so
I'm a weirdo. I actually love Great American Scream Machine. At least the last time I rode it in 2018. I thought the airtime hills were absurd.
They are. I agree. They're good, but it's so potholy.
And I think I was just on not much sleep, and I guess just like that combined with like a young and dumb 20-year-old. That was like at the time. I was just like, this is great. Yeah. And like, I don't know if I'd say the same thing if I rode it today. Definitely then it was just great. I loved it.
All right. Well, speaking of young and dumb 22-year-olds, I'm going with this. And so in 2019, before we started recording, David was talking about how Coaster Challenge has evolved over the years. And one of our bigger moments as a channel was I have been very, very fortunate over the years, and I'm very thankful. I don't take it for granted to have traveled for various jobs, being an engineer all over the world.
Amazing.
I have amazing international credits. There's so many coasters internationally I've not been on yet, but I've been on a bunch. And my last big international trip was in March of 2019, and I had to go for work for 2 weeks to China.
Nice.
A couple weekends. And I took some vacation time. I'm very crafty with international trips with work to make the most of them. I mean, I hit like 5 parks: Shanghai Disney, Haisheng Ocean Park, of course, China Dinosaurs Park we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Hefe Wanda, which was amazing. It's just amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
While I was there, this guy messages me. I think it was on Twitter, because I was on Twitter back then. I'm not anymore. And his name was Mark. And he starts asking me all these questions about China. And he tells me that, he's met David, of course, David Cantu from Coaster Challenge.
Yeah.
That's how he found out about me. So it comes to pass that, I'm in China, and he was going to be in China coming a couple of weeks later. So it was kind of like this perfect storm, if you will. I was there so I could relay information to him. And he, of course, being just a couple of weeks away from going there, obviously would already been planning and information. So we were sharing information with each other. But I quickly learned, number one, how crazy he is. This is Mark, of course, from your channel.
He's insane. I love him.
It's insane, because he was telling me, oh, yeah, if you take this train, go 3 hours out of the way, you can hit this one credit. And and then he's telling me about this. He's obsessed with this Gib, giant inverted boomerang,
right?
Which I think are the best of those models of all of the Vagoma boomerangs, the 3rd gen, basically, with the vertical towers. I love Deja Vu, by the way, also.
All right,
a year. What a crazy year, by the way, for Metromound. They got 3 new coasters. One
completely
of them was
absurd.
It's insane. And Deja Vu was amazing that opening year, but again, it started downhill from there, not in a good way. Anyways, he tells me to go on this Gib that's in the middle of Shanghai. It's the only credit there. And I'm like, Mark, I only have so many hours in the day. I need to get my sleep. And a friendship was born from that. And, it turns out he's in Florida, just like me. And anyway, we met up, soon after that in person, after he got back from China. And, we've been friends ever since. I see him usually several times a week and learn how crazy he is. Just from your perspective as the founder of the channel, what do you think sets El Toro Ryan apart from other coaster enthusiast channels?
Definitely from the start, I did not take it seriously at all, one bit. I purposely tried to make the videos as silly and dumb as I could. And just capture what we were really doing at the park. It's gonna be like, hey guys, we're at Walt Disney World today. We're gonna go check out this pavilion, real formal and informational, I guess, in the parks. I wanted to go to the parks and let's make chaos.
Right. So you're basically at the opposite end of, say, Tim Tracker or Theme Park Worldwide.
Yeah, put me on the other side of them.
Right.
Like I'm doing, they're serious and like educational. I'm just like, I'm in a park. Yo, what's up, dude? It's just antics and stuff.
Yeah, and I think there's room for both of those things. I mean, certainly. I mean, the informational ones, the vlogs. Don from Theme Park Worldwide, I've met him. He's good friends with some really close friends of mine here in Orlando, or IAPA, back then, and got to hang out for a little bit. Really nice guy. I was curious. I'd never heard of him, and I meet him, and some of his coverage of Velocicoaster when he was here in Florida.
Oh, nice.
And he does a really great job. He's just very professional. And he doesn't skip a beat. Like, he's a really good speaker, and he's great. He's great.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I mean, he's one of the bigger. He's not really a coaster enthusiast. He's more of a theme park enthusiast.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which I can relate to, because I love both. I love theme parks and high immersion, but I also love coasters. But he's certainly one of the bigger theme park coaster type channels for sure. Yeah, I mean, you guys have some hilarious videos, and thanks. I know that Mark still works with you, and I guess Logan's not involved anymore, but I know Logan. He lives here in Orlando again.
Right? Yeah, he lives down in Florida. Yeah,
and I've hung out with him, and I've seen how crazy he can be. And Mark is off the wall.
Yeah, and the two of them together is really funny too.
And I of course Tim Halloran.
Oh yeah. Right. I love Tim.
So Tim's a good friend of mine. Tim is awesome. Because of my friendship with him, I joined Coaster Crew, and this year I joined January 1st. Kind of made it like, this is my new thing for this year for coasters.
New Year's Day.
Yeah, New Year's Day, like New Year's resolution. I'm joining Coaster Crew. So I was already a member, and I'm still a member. And I'd been part of Coaster Crew. I joined it like 4 years ago when I'm from Florida. But I was so busy that year, I never did a single event. I'm like, I haven't met Tim yet. I didn't know anyone in Coast, but now I've gotten to know Tim, and he's such an awesome guy.
Oh, he is. Yeah, he's great.
One of the ways he's super awesome, and we've had him on the podcast here as well. He is such a patient person. Yeah, so I've watched your videos, and I love how you do these kind of little funny little edits on them, and like these just kind of spoofy parody, a little bit like Coaster Studios, like Taylor does, but he does it in a more serious sort of funny way. You're just kind of just off the wall. It's entertaining.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So for sure.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Speaking of your videos being so funny, and maybe you have a couple answers for this. It's fine. I realize it might be difficult to step one, but what would you say would be your funniest video you've released, and why? Or maybe your funniest moment in one of your videos?
I don't know. I could say which one was the funniest video. I could definitely say like one of the funniest moments, at least to me, was in like January of 2019. Me, Mark, and Logan were in Mexico, and we were at Guadalajara. We had went to Selva Magica. We missed Bullet because Bullet was closed, and then we were going through Selva Magica trying to find credits that we were just looking through on RCDB. We found a dragon wagon that was like in the middle of like a park. It looked like a temporary amusement park setup. We walk up to the dragon wagon, and we asked if we could ride, and we were like clearly too tall. Like they had a sign there, and like we were way too tall. So instantly we start trying to like wager with them. Hey, we'll give you like 70 pesos. Will you let us ride? And when you translate that to American dollars, that's like $3 for us. So we got the guy. He's like a teenager. He's like, and he like walks out. Was in some booth, and he comes back, and he's like, okay, yeah, you guys can ride. So he gave him the 70 pesos, and we got on the ride. And I think that's all we paid to get on it too. Like we didn't even buy like a ticket or anything to get on, if I remember right. And then he let us on this ride we weren't supposed to be on, like built on the city street, and it was hilarious. That's like definitely one of my favorite moments, like from a trip or something.
Wow. And that was the whole thing, you talking to him, negotiating with him. What was in the video?
Yeah, I think so. I think we had like little clips of it.
Right.
I can't remember if I filmed him directly. Anyone watching, it's in the Selva Magica video. If you look that up, it should show up in that one. But yeah, I think we captured that, and then like we filmed him walking away, and then I think coming back, and then like maybe we showed the 70 pesos we gave him. But yeah, it was hilarious. Like,
and now, I've not seen that video before, but what I like about this story, I've lived in the South now basically for a long time, either California or now Florida. Yeah. So now, of course, Florida doesn't border with Mexico, but California certainly does. And before California, I lived in Arizona. So I've been to Mexico, the border cities, the worst parts of Mexico, many times.
Yeah.
And one of the things, of course, about Mexico is it's all about the bartering. When you go to the bazaar stores and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So I love that you guys, you're in Mexico and you're bartering to get on a coaster. That's fantastic.
Yeah, like a kiddie coaster.
Yeah, dragon wagon.
It's like the dumbest thing ever. Like, that's what we're bartering for. We could care less about anything else, but it's a coaster, like a kiddie coaster. Like, let us on. Like, we want the credit. So it's so stupid.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So, how long ago did you start the channel, by the way?
That's a good question, actually. So technically, I've had this channel since like 2010, but it originally wasn't roller coasters, it was skateboard.
Right.
And then I called Asian skater. I'm super mixed by descent, so I'm like half like black and Caribbean on my mom's side, and I'm half Chinese from my dad's side.
Blasian, I get. Oh,
yeah,
okay, that's
yeah,
cool.
like Blasian. So I combined them together, and that was like something kids called me that growing up, and that was like my theme, I guess. I was like, yeah, I'm Blasian. But I had a skate channel for all that. And then in 2017, when I graduated college and I started going on more trips, like park trips, at that point I had already kind of like mentally fallen more out of skateboarding, more into much more into roller coasters. This is after I worked at Great Adventure. Right. And then I went to Holiday World for Hollywood Nights in 2017. And then I filmed like an off-ride video of Voyage and like the walk back. And I was like, hey, I'm going to post it on YouTube, but I didn't want to make it skateboarding still, so I changed the name to Toro Ryan, and then went from there. And then it just spawned from that, and then it's just gone since then.
Oh, okay. So when I met Mark in March of 2019, so I met him, Twitter, when I was, across the world, in China, and he was back here in Florida. And I actually met him in person the next month after I got home and he got home. But so like at that point, the channel was only a couple years old, so it wasn't that old.
Oh no, yeah, okay. Yeah. And when I switched it from Blasian Skater to Toro Ryan, it maybe had like 160 subs, like 160 subscribers.
Right now you're almost under 1,000, right?
Yeah, getting there. Yeah, I think 93,000.
Yeah, I mean that's very solid. I mean, we've had Coaster Studios, Taylor and Sarah on the show, and they're like I think 200,000 now.
Yeah, they're climbing up there. They're huge.
Yeah, and we've had Austin on in first season. He's a good friend.
Yeah, he's been growing too, like crazy.
Yeah,
I love all of them.
And Austin's amazing with his concept POV. It's just amazing.
Oh yeah, he's so good at that stuff. Yeah,
he's very technical in that regard. And if you haven't checked it out, check out my interview with him, which was in our first season. Basically, what we did is we did the interview right after Velocicoaster went into previews.
Oh, nice.
Because he and I had been on it already. He and I, along with Mark and Kaylin, all the Florida crew here. The Florida crew. We got to ride Velocicoaster for the filming that Universal did in April before it even opened to the public, which is amazing to ride a amazing new coaster before the public, like that. Austin and I had already had a bunch of rides on the ride when people are not even experiencing it for the first time yet. Come May, when people are just getting their one ride on it, well, some more than one during previews. So we interviewed him kind of around that time so we could release it for Velocicoaster's opening. So we talk about his concept POVs, talk about Velocicoaster specifically, and kind of the elements of Velocicoaster a little bit. We get into the technicals and kind of what we thought of the ride. But so check it out. Since I know you're a fan of his, and he's definitely growing. And he's a newer channel. He really started growing once he moved here. So that was back in late 2018, early 2019. So he's only been around for a couple of years, but he's like I think around 40,000 now.
I think he's over 50 now,
or maybe over 50. Okay, he's growing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's doing really well. I'm really proud of him because he puts a lot of work into it.
Too.
So so you're in the middle of the pack there between him and say Taylor and Sarah and everyone else. But you've obviously done well for yourself. I didn't realize you're only for 4 years now, 5 years. That's pretty impressive.
Thanks.
So and again, and all this, you're not taking yourself too seriously. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, definitely providing some entertainment for sure. And you and I are friends on Facebook, and so I see you post things about your editing you're doing and kind of a little bit behind the scenes stuff that you post, and I think it's cool that you share that. And I think you're on Instagram as well, right?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram.
I think I follow you there as well. And actually, in a little bit here, you can share all how people follow you and all that. We'll get to that.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So a couple more questions before we get to that point, though. If you had to choose one of the other coaster idiots
oh god,
to be stuck on a desert island with, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, I think I'd rather be by myself.
That's a very valid answer.
Just so they don't drive me crazy.
Right.
Well, just a quick disclaimer. My wife doesn't really consider herself a coaster idiot, but if she did say she was, then I'd pick her.
Okay.
So she doesn't kill me or something. So Nadine, if you're listening to this, I would pick you. Yeah, everyone else, everyone's so chaotic. Honestly, I would be fine with any of them. Okay. I don't know if I could pick one of them, but some of them are just say if I was on that island with Mark, he's a character, probably wouldn't stop talking about some random crap he's mad about that he can't get to because he's stuck on an island. And it would be like, man, I can't go to Guatemala and ride that 8 inversion Intamin looper now. I'm stuck on this island. The most random thought that about normal life, he'd be going about that. I think some of the other guys would be chiller for sure, but Mark or Logan, let's say, that would be insane.
Right.
Definitely be insane.
He'd be like, Ryan, I think there's a credit if we walk for 2 miles this way and another half mile, that I think there's a credit over there.
Yeah.
You go 5 years out from now, where do you want Toro Ryan to be?
Yeah, it's a good question. Because actually I've never really had an outlook for the channel the whole time I've been doing it. I've just kind of always made videos that just made me happy or I enjoyed. It's all a giant hobby for me.
Right.
Some people ask me oh man, that must be a second job for you. And I guess when you think about it, it kind of is. It takes a lot of time and effort.
Oh yeah.
But it's at the end of the day, it's just I love doing it. It's just fun.
For sure.
But I guess in 5 years, I'll take a step back. back again because like when COVID hit, I started making the problematic coaster series. So that was more like my technical and just that's where I got my nerdy side out because in the videos I showcase like the wild side at parks, but in my head all the time I'm just thinking about the technical side, how they work,
of course,
and just experiences. And I got a chance to channel that when COVID hit and I was forced to stay home. And so I was like, all right, like I finally have time to focus on something. So that's what happened. But I'd love to expand more on those. Those are, I love making videos like that. They just take time, which it's just hard. Or any other series too, maybe where I can get more technical about something. Maybe another series where it's more entertainment focused. That's not necessarily Coaster Idiots. Don't have to rely on like vlogging, let's say, like at a park. But, something I could do, some sort of like, kind of like what you were saying, what like Adam does maybe. Taylor does with coaster parodies, but, kind of my own spin. I would want it to happen just kind of naturally. When I want to like plan something that like, oh, I have to compete with them because I don't see any competitors. Most of them are all my friends, and I love seeing them grow, and I just do this for fun. So
that's awesome. That's a great
attitude. Just something like that. Yeah, and just if the channel steadily kept growing during those 5 years, that'd be cool too.
Yes, I love the attitude that you're kind of, because there is a lot of infighting in the community. The YouTube channels and just people not getting along, and
it gets kind of weird.
People bullying each other. Logan, Coaster Kids and Janai, they're big friends of the podcast. We've done a lot of work.
Yeah, I love Logan.
And Logan's talked about Jeff. I interviewed Jeff very early on in season 1, talking about Logan getting death threats, and it's really bad. So one of the things that, again, I'd watched your videos, I'd met Mark, I'd met Logan, met some of the people from your channel. Then I met you, and just a couple times we've seen each other at media days, and I could just see it immediately, like, oh wow, this is like, he's a nice guy, he's positive attitude. I could tell immediately that. I could sense that from you just talking to you, and I see it here with talking to you today. So what you said there about how you not competition with anyone else, you just want everyone to get along and everything, that totally makes sense, and kind of that attitude that you put out there.
Oh, cool.
Sweet. That's awesome. I mean, you mentioned the problematic coaster series, so if I had more time, I'd watch a lot more videos, including yours.
I understand they're long videos.
But I'm familiar with that series. I think I watched, you did one on Hagrid's, right?
I did. I did.
I seem to recall watching that because Hagrid's is, I live 5 minutes from Universal.
Oh, nice, man. That's awesome.
Like I said, I'm really close to the parks now. I moved in January. I was an hour and a half from Universal. Now I'm 5 minutes, and I love it.
That's quite
amazing. It's amazing. It's a huge upgrade. I'm so glad I made the move. And there's other benefits to me moving from where I was to where I am now, and it's awesome. I love it. So I feel very fortunate again. So Hagrid's is literally 2 miles from here.
That's so great.
And Hagrid's is the only family coaster that's on my top 10 because I'm a sucker for theming, and that ride is incredible. Basically, I consider Hagrid's to be the best mine train style coaster on the planet.
Yes, it's a great way to call it. I never even thought about it as like a mine train. It's totally, it's like completely.
The other thing, I'm a huge Intamin fan, which I'm sure you can respect, because El Toro Ryan and all that. And that's why I got El Toro's like El Toro. Several white whales I'm going after this year. There are actually 2 of the big ones. The big ones are Intamin. Sky Rush I've not been on either.
Oh wow, okay.
So, and then El Toro. But El Toro I'm super excited about because I love wooden coasters. And I've heard it's legend. I've heard how amazing it is. Fab, now it's different, all that. But anyway, again, Hagrid's is an Intamin, of course. And being an engineer, I'm fascinated with Hagrid's. I mean, I love the ride, but being an engineer, because it is the most complex coaster ever built.
Oh yeah,
the most expensive, and
I completely agree.
2 drop tracks, although you don't experience 1 in a given ride. But and of course, I love the technicals of why they needed to build 2, and and all this and that, and they were smart too for redundancy because of, it's just really interesting. Remember watching your video a little bit. That's cool. I think it's cool that you do that series, and being that you kind of have that engineering side to you too, I can tell it's something you enjoy doing. So keep at it. That's my recommendation.
Oh, thanks. Awesome. Can't wait to make another one.
For sure.
Got to find some time, but I'll try and make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So last thing that we kind of ask is, we've had some fun here. We joked around. We talked about some serious topic. Obviously you're now familiar with the mission of Coaster Challenge being all about theme park therapy, helping people conquer their fears.
It's amazing.
Anxiety, and how your life can get better from that, even well beyond the parks. So we talked about that. So given that mission, what kind of final piece of advice would you give those that are listening?
I would definitely say, if you're feeling some fear with coasters, and you have other issues with your life, like mental problems or other things outside that, definitely try to push yourself on at least one coaster, especially, involving roller coasters, just because it really can help break levels of fear that you might have. And it really could help you with other matters in your life. I know for me, especially as like a young kid, kid. I used to be like very quiet, reserved. My mom still says to this day, like I'm a different person than I was then. And I think like that was a real breakthrough moment, like when I started riding coasters, to like become more brave, and it helped me like loosen up as a person. It wasn't the only thing that made me who I am today. Yeah, obviously like my wife and other things helped out greatly.
Right.
But it was such a spark to help really just grow and become less fearful, really overcome other issues, you know, you might have.
That's great. I love that advice because it hits me personally, quite frankly. And the reason why is not something that I've talked about, some of the challenges I've faced in my own life here on the podcast and the interviews that I've done. But I think I've talked about this specific aspect, this time period, I should say. So I have bipolar disorders. I've been diagnosed with it since I was a late teen, and I've dealt with 3 clinical depressions in my life. Now, what I don't think I've talked about is my last one, which was the longest of them and the worst of them. And it was induced because of the person I was married to, and that's a whole nother psychological abuse. It was really bad. But
I'm sorry.
What I'm bringing it up for is not so much the cause, but again, it was the longest depression. I was living in San Diego at the time. The depression lasted a little more than a year, like a year and a quarter or so. From August of 2015 until January of 2017. So on disability, off and on, it was really bad.
Yeah.
I had a lot of free time. Now, I want to share this because it relates to what you said, but also it's a huge warning and advice for our listeners. So one of the things that is really bad about anxiety, for a lot of people, myself included, it coupled in with depression. Like the worst anxiety I've ever had is when I've been depressed. One of the worst things about anxiety is it prevents you from pursuing the self-care and the therapy and the help. You become your own worst enemy.
Absolutely.
And in a clinically, acute anxiety scenario where I was for over a year, nonstop anxiety, like the only break I got from it was when I was sleeping, which is why I love to go to sleep. A lot of us love to sleep during depression. That's the big reason why. We get a break from it. I wasn't getting a break from it. I wasn't.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And even though I had all that free time, I didn't go to parks. My Disney annual pass, I let them all expire. And I could have spent time at the parks. I should have gone. It's when I could have gone. I had all this time off, months off at a time. Yeah. I didn't go because I didn't want to leave home. I didn't want to, I was all that anxiety. Well, and I think I've talked about this part on the podcast before, but in December 2016, some friends of mine fortuitously kind of forced me to go to Disneyland. I'd been there in a couple of years at that point, and it was December. It was the holidays. Have you been to Disneyland on the holidays, by the way, Ryan?
I haven't been to Disneyland yet, actually, at all.
Oh, okay. So again, I love coasters, but I love the theme, the high theme stuff, which is why Universal is such a great fit for me. Why I love Universal's parks in Orlando so much. But anyways, they dragged me to Disneyland. Disneyland at the holidays is amazing. The decorations with the special stuff they do for the holidays, the fireworks.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And it's so beautiful, especially at night. We were there all day, and I was getting breaks from my anxiety, getting on the rides and just being immersed. That even not being on a ride, I literally saw myself in that moment, like, oh my gosh, I had a few seconds where I wasn't nervous, I wasn't anxious, I wasn't upset about the future. And that was the start of my recovery out of that deep pit that I was stuck in for over a year. I really appreciate what you said there is if you're anxious, if you're depressed, get yourself on a coaster. So the listeners, it's probably the thing you don't want to do if you're stuck. And I hate to think any of our listeners first comes out, or people listen to it later, but I hate to think people are depressed, but it happens, unfortunately, in life. So if you're feeling depressed, you're feeling anxious, and you're like, oh, I don't want to be in a park right now, that is when you should be going to a park, getting on a coaster, getting that theme park therapy. So Ryan, thank you so much for giving that advice, because I can relate to it. I wish I would have had you to give me that advice 4 years ago, 5 years ago, about 6, 7 years ago now.
Yeah, I would have dragged you on something, man. I would have dragged you on whatever there was nearby.
Appreciate that, Ryan. So great advice. And every guest that we've had on the show, we've now had several dozen. We're now in our second season. Each person, when we ask that question, they have a different answer. They have a different little gem. That's why I love asking that question.
That's a great question.
Come up with. Simple question, but thank you. So the last thing, Ryan, is in a way to kind of repay you, if you will, for taking the time with us, sharing some of your life with us, some personal things and so forth. Is like you, we're not competing with other channels. We're not, another Me Too podcast. We're not trying to get views or listens or, we're doing this all on a volunteer basis. So to that end, we like helping promote the creators, the content creators, podcasters, YouTubers, etc. Anyone that just puts themselves out there, we like to help them promote themselves. So the last thing we ask before we end our interviews is for you to just go ahead and share how people can find you, a website, obviously your YouTube channel, social media, any way people can find you, friend you, follow you, whatever you feel like sharing, please go ahead.
Oh yeah, sure. Thank you. I'm most active on YouTube. You can find me at Toro Ryan on YouTube. I also run a Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram page also. Same name, Toro Ryan. I'm not as active on those, especially like Twitter and Facebook. I'm not really too active on. YouTube, definitely You'll find me making videos there, the most active there. And I use Instagram a little bit from time to time.
Right.
I might suck at answering DMs, but I'm not ignoring you. I'm just like an old man with it. I just don't check it that much.
That's awesome. And yeah, I can relate to what you just shared there, because I've been on all the different social medias. The main ones, either have been or am on. And I find Instagram, I think, is the best one. It's the one that has the least toxicity, but also for enthusiasts, it's Susie Central on Instagram.
Oh yeah, they're
the other channel
talking and meeting each other, and just like it's so great. It's bolstering this whole community.
And I love the stories, and I doing my own stories. I'm starting to get more creative myself with them and adding things to them, and music and animation things. And I love seeing my friends' stories and all the cringe stuff like
cringe stuff is the best.
And Ben at Coaster Dolphins, another good friend of mine. He does great stuff like that. Time Monkey Anthony. There's so many great people.
Oh yeah, there's so many.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised that of all the social media that's the one you're the most involved on than the others. So obviously, your YouTube channel, that's the main thing. And so I encourage all of our listeners to check out your videos, subscribe. You're going to laugh a lot. You'll learn some things too from the Problematic Coaster series, and knows what else you might do from that, like you said, earlier in the future. So thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us today and sharing with us. Keep on doing those awesome videos.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. You guys have like an awesome message that you're promoting, and I think it's just fantastic. This is so cool.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Ryan. That was an incredible interview, Jen.
That it was.
I have to say, it's a real honor that Ryan from El Toro Ryan came on the podcast for our first time to celebrate our second season here. The fact that he grew up in New Jersey, now I know why he's El Toro Ryan, because his most favorite is El Toro over at Great Adventure. I've not had a chance to get on that coaster yet, but it is on my bucket list to accomplish. So I hope that everybody else out there gets a chance to get up to Great Adventure this year. There's a lot of fun things going on over there in that park. Got quite an incredible season ahead of us here, guys. A lot of great guests lined up. It's going to be a fun summer season. Can't wait to get into the fall, man. The holidays, it looks like there's going to be a lot of incredible stuff happening.
I can't wait for scary time.
Yep, Haunts
Oh,
season.
sorry.
It's only June, but we're already going to talk about Haunts. That's going to be fun. But anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. So, Bradley, how can they find us on social media?
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to see more of us, we upload every Friday. And check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all at Coaster Challenge. Links are in the description below. Thanks for joining us here today.
Thank you, Bradley. Yes, guys, make sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast network and give us a thumbs up. Also, please give us a review. If your podcast network has an area where you can type a review, we'd really appreciate that. We work very hard to create these episodes to entertain all you guys out there, and also to educate people out there and be able to help people be able to break their fears, break their anxieties and depression. We're just doing everything in our power to try to do the best we can here. So by giving us a positive review would really mean a lot to all of us here. And yeah, it's going to be an incredible summer. Can't wait to share our episodes with you all throughout this season. It's just going to be very incredible. But until then, this is David Cantu.
This is Jenna Gazelle.
We'll see you all next week right here on Coaster Challenge.